San Jose is Northern California's largest city by population, and within this population, it is home to people from all over the world. A city that is part of the Bay Area, which prides itself on being home to so many diverse cultures along with monumental sports teams, such as the Golden State Warriors, San Francisco Giants, and the Oakland Athletics. Fans who support these teams come from every race, embracing the legacy and culture that these teams have cultivated. However, a city and area that gleams with culture and diversity is also subject to racial inequity. Minority groups are not only affected by racism themselves, but also by policies within the government that have racist motives and intent embedded in them. Physical attributes such as skin color can be the difference between a Mexican immigrant facing deportation or being let off with a traffic warning during a stop. The city of San Jose acknowledged that governmental systems and patterns of exclusion supported these racial inequities. This digital short will argue why the City Council's Office of Racial and Social Equity should receive our support to fight racial injustice in San Jose. The title of this film is Fighting Racial Inequity in San Jose. The City Council's Office of Racial Equity recognizes that historical and current indicators across many governmental systems show disproportionality and inequitable outcomes for people of color. The purpose of racial equity plans is to help address inequities that our marginalized communities face in San Jose. The framework of the plan provided by the city is a normalize, which establishes a shared understanding and common language around racial equity. This includes introducing and familiarizing the department with key racial equity terminology, encouraging open discussions about racialized experiences, highlighting the importance of using disaggregated data and applying it effectively, building comfort around addressing and naming systemic inequities, and creating a space for employees to share lived experiences and learn from each other, thereby enhancing the department's cultural competency. The next step in the framework of the plan is to organize, which is develop and sustaining internal structures and cross-agency networks to support racial equity work. This involves establishing clear purposes, guiding principles, and processes for community engagement, with active input from the communities involved. They also want to strengthen internal capacity by fostering cross-departmental collaboration to advance the department's mission. Also building partnerships with community-based organizations, racial equity coalitions, and local agencies serving the city's communities. They also want to identify and provide training opportunities for employees to develop technical, strategic, and interpersonal skills, which are essential for advancing racial equity. Also by creating a departmental equity council or group to guide and share the responsibility for promoting racial equity across the department. The next step is to operationalize. This means actively identifying and addressing racial and social inequities through targeted actions. This includes implementing specific action items and projects that align with the department's mission, which is all viewed through a racial equity lens. Also conducting consistent racial equity impact assessments for departmental projects, processes, policies, and programs. They also want to integrate racial equity considerations into the budget process, which ranges from budget memos to implementing budgeting for equity. So by helping departments recognize inequities and differences in how people are treated, particularly because of their race, the city can put into place an equity action plan that focuses on examining potential inequities in services and decisions, thus providing a solution to the problem and a better outcome for everyone. We need these plans because current indications show the disproportionality between multiple communities. In the following video, the Office of Racial and Social Equity will be describing its vision and mission for the city of San Jose.
Over the last 4 years, the Office of Racial and Social Equity has been at the forefront of championing efforts to be more inclusive, welcoming, and equitable by providing organizational strategic support, training and tools, community programs, events, and more.
The San Jose City Council's Office of Racial Equity acknowledges that of 2019, more than 39% of San Jose's population were immigrants and must work to accommodate them. With a total population in San Jose of over 1 million and rising, the total foreign-born population makes up almost 40% of San Jose's population. This makes the amount of naturalized residents living in San Jose just above 200,000. 80.2% of the population entered before 2010, with 19.8% of the immigrants entering in 2010 or later. 57% of the population speaks a language other than English at home, making more than half of San Jose's population bilingual. And with 90.7% of the foreign-born residents, 5 and older, speaking a different language at home. The top languages in San Jose are English only, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Tagalog. There are also a total of 134,000 undocumented residents living in Santa Clara County. Among the immigrant population in Santa Clara County, 9.8% of them were likely refugees in 2021. The Office of Racial Equity views education as one of the key ways to fight racism and hosts training sessions to educate their council members to understand racial equity further. By educating their city council members to further understand racial equity, they can find solutions to bring racial equity in places like airports, public works, libraries, police departments, etc. Many public areas have employees that work for the city, so with proper education, we can at least ensure that there is racial equity within these areas. In the following video, the City Council will explain the recent feedback and following concerns of the city, specifically regarding racial inequity.
The city's future. And to my surprise, actually, I'll be honest with you, equity and race came up a lot in those sessions when I was listening. And so when staff came to me early on, when I became city manager, and requested that we engage in kind of a year of learning with the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, GARE, I knew that it was the right thing for the organization and certainly for us in terms of a learning opportunity. And so we began our engagement with GARE in 2018, and it's continued for the past 2 years. Over these last 2 years, we've intentionally focused on our capacity building within the organization, increasing the infrastructure, collecting data, and providing training to staff and supporting the departments that are involved with GARE to create kind of a more normalized conversation around how we approach this work.
Ibram X. Kendi views racism as a problem that does not lie within groups of people, but in governmental systems and policies. The people who are impacted by racism are more affected by the hidden policies than the visible racism that is easier to see. Hidden policies are also so much more threatening because it is harder to be an anti-racist when you are unaware of the policies that support racial inequities. When racism is visible, it is much easier to stand up against it rather than when individuals do not know that it is embedded in our system and policies. To be a true anti-racist, we have to change the policies and systems that promote this racial inequity, and this evidence supports my research on racism because it shows that people and systems in power use racism as a tool to exploit the people who are affected by it. Kendi highlights that people in power socially construct racial categories for their own benefit. This idea was especially prevalent during the times of slavery, where white people looked at Africans as an inferior race to justify putting them to work. All of these points support the argument that race is a social construct. So as anti-racists, we have to view race as something that is not fixed and is able to be changed. If the definition of race can be fluid, then it allows racist ideology to be deconstructed, allowing previous prejudice and hurtful policies to change. San Jose State University has also begun to implement a racial equity plan within the university. Following the blueprint of the City Council, the university has similar tactics such as educating and using collective action to fight racial inequity. For the students, the university is currently working with the CSU Chancellor's Office to expand their recruitment areas where more underrepresented students live, Black students in particular. They are also in the process of improving housing ability by expanding housing initiatives for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. They have also designated funds in student affairs to build community and increase a sense of belonging for Black students. One plan that is already ongoing is addressing racist aggressions and an anti-bias training specific to staff and management within the university. A plan that the university has completed is establishing a campus committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which serves to identify equity gaps and makes recommendations to the president on addressing systemic historical inequities. By making progress for a smaller demographic such as a university, we can use the success of this to validate the City Council's plan for the entire city. The city of San Jose is home to many immigrants, and everyone who lives in the city should feel accommodated and equally treated compared to others. The city council has already started to put plans into motion to fight racial inequity in the city by creating an Office of Racial Equity. San Jose State University has also established a campus committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which implements activities and actions to help fight racial inequity within the university. The thing in common that both plans have is that they use collective action and education. Ignorance is a cause of racial inequity, and collective action is needed by everyone to break the system problems and societal expectations that are put onto minority groups. We must keep finding ways to educate ourselves and work to fight against racism. Simply not being racist is not enough, and we have to actively educate others and work to reach peace in our city.